1859. Geelong, Southern Australia. A man of English origin releases 24 rabbits, imported from Europe, onto his property. He does it to enjoy hunting them, just for fun. But the rabbits escape and reproduce. In just a few years, the southeast of Australia is overrun by millions of rabbits. In less than 50 years, advancing over 100 kilometers a year, rabbits spread across the land, and most of the continent falls under their control. Rabbits become unstoppable. They eat grasses, crops, and bushes faster than they can regrow, leaving the land empty. With no food left, farm animals starve. But with rabbits everywhere, predators also thrive and keep multiplying, causing even greater danger. What began as the pastime of one Englishman soon becomes an Australian national emergency, and Australians respond with everything they have. They shoot them, they poison them, they gas their warrens, they rip the ground apart with tractors, they fence off entire regions, thousands of kilometers long, hoping this might be the solution. But when they realize none of it is enough, that the millions of rabbits, according to the estimates of the period, by the 1920s have become 10 billion. Australians turn to biological weapons. This is the true story of a war that has lasted over 160 years. A war Australia fought and is still fighting to contain the almighty bunny. Rabbits are first brought to Australia in 1788 with the First Fleet. European settlers keep them in cages and use them mainly for meat. As settlement expands, colonists try to farm the land and raise livestock, but they quickly run into a problem. Australian native predators, quolls, dingoes, and large reptiles, constantly attack their animals. So over decades, settlers hunt them, poison them, and shoot them. By the 1850s, settlers have emptied large areas of southeastern Australia of major predators. In 1859, when Thomas Austin releases the 24 European rabbits, the conditions for their reproduction are perfect. Very few predators, plenty of grass, and mild winters. Rabbits reach sexual maturity at just 3 to 4 months. Under good conditions, a female can become pregnant up to 7 or 8 times a year, each pregnancy lasting about 1 month, and each litter containing 4 to 8 kits. A single female can give birth to around 50 to 60 kits in 1 year. Around 60 to 80% of rabbits die within their first 3 months. But it doesn't really matter, because even with these losses, just 2 rabbits can turn into around 180 in just 18 months. From Austin's estate in Victoria, as such, the rabbit apocalypse begins. Within a few years, rabbits overrun the state of Victoria and push into nearby states, South Australia and New South Wales. They flood farms, grazing lands, and entire districts. At first, many Australians are happy. Meat floods the countryside, fur piles up, rabbits multiply by the millions while farmers trap them, skin them, can their meat, exporting both, turning the invasion into profit. But the happiness doesn't last. Rabbits strip grass down to the roots. They devastate farmers' crops. They erase seedlings and bushes. When food runs out, rabbits move on, advancing up to 100 kilometers per year in any direction where more can be found. Above ground, millions of rabbits swarm the landscape. Below ground, the problem is worse. Rabbits dig vast warrens, riddling the soil with tunnels, hundreds of meters long with dozens of entrances. They weaken railway embankments. They undermine roads. They push infrastructure toward collapse. Farmers shoot rabbits day and night, and at this point, it just doesn't work. The states then intervene, offering bounties. Entire communities, hundreds, sometimes thousands of men, line up across the land. They beat the ground with sticks to drive rabbits out. Farmers scatter poison by hand. They pump gas into burrows to suffocate them and flood their tunnels with water to drown them. They hammer traps into the soil by the tens of millions. The government then orders landowners to destroy the warrens on their properties or pay fines. Farmers drag heavy plows and ripping blades behind tractors, steel cutting through tunnel networks, collapsing chambers, burying rabbits alive or tearing them apart, dismembered, as machines pass again and again, resulting in mass slaughter. It looks effective. In reality, it barely makes a dent. At one point, governments offer rewards equivalent to several million US dollars in today's money to anyone who can find a solution. Some proposals prove too dangerous. Others turn out to be too cruel. One idea stands out, though, an idea that had already worked against dingoes in eastern Australia just decades earlier: fencing. If killing rabbits one by one is too slow and too costly, what if people could block them in specific zones, cutting them off from what keeps them alive? In some places, farmers begin fencing dams, lakes, and water holes, cutting rabbits off from drinking water. In confined spaces, the results are great. Rabbits dehydrate and die. The logic is simple. If fencing water works on a small scale, what would it do on a continental one? By the early 1900s, rabbits have already occupied almost the entire continent, except Western Australia. So Australia answers a big problem with a big solution. It builds an enormously long fence. Using 120 men, 350 camels, over 200 horses, and around 50 donkeys to haul materials across remote terrain, workers construct a fence stretching from 80 Mile Beach to near Jurtakutup, 1,800 kilometers long, about 1.1 meters tall, extending 15 centimeters below ground. When it is completed, patrols walk the fence constantly. For a time, it does slow the rabbits. Cut off from water and grazing land, many die of thirst. Carcasses accumulate. Disease spreads. Parasites thrive. In overcrowded pockets, rabbits begin to cannibalize one another, the dead and the dying. But many also jump the fence. Others dig beneath it and cross to the other side. So Australia builds a second fence, then a third. After separating the continent with more than 3,250 kilometers of fencing, at a cost equivalent to roughly 46,000 modern Australian dollars per kilometer, or about $150 million in today's money, Australia surrenders. By the 1920s, extrapolations suggest rabbit densities anywhere between 1,000 to 4,000 per square kilometer, translating into somewhere between 7 and 10 billion rabbits across the continent. From this point on, the problem spins out of control. Australians keep shooting rabbits, poisoning them, gassing their warrens, and tearing up the land. Farmers spend fortunes fencing off their crops just to preserve them. This continues for 3 decades, until Australia turns to a solution that will wipe out the rabbit almost completely. By the 1920s, Australia has already tried everything. Guns failed, poison failed, fences failed. Rabbits reproduced faster than humans could kill them. So Australia stops thinking like a farmer or an engineer and starts thinking like a scientist. Inside Australian research institutions, scientists begin asking a different question. Not how to kill rabbits, but what already kills rabbits in nature. They study livestock epidemics, poultry viruses, insect plagues. They know diseases can erase entire populations fast. If rabbits represent a biological problem, then they need a biological solution. Some scientists propose bacteria, others propose parasites. Most ideas are rejected. Too slow, too weak, or too dangerous. Australia cannot risk infecting its livestock, native animals, or humans. But then they find a virus that draws their attention. It comes from South America. Its name is Myxoma. In South America, native rabbits carry the Myxoma with only mild symptoms. When Australian scientists test the virus on their European rabbits, the results are shocking. The virus tears through their soft tissue and overwhelms their immune system. Their eyes swell shut, their lips and noses balloon. Their genitals swell into inflamed masses. Their skin lesions rupture, then fester. After a while, they can no longer eat or drink. Secondary infections eventually take over. Most die by the end of the 12th day, from dehydration and systemic collapse. By the late 1930s and 1940s, Australian scientists run controlled trials. They infect small groups of rabbits and observe the outcome. In some trials, as many as 99.8% of rabbits die. So in 1950, Australia releases infected rabbits into the wild. Myxomatosis spreads rapidly, carried by mosquitoes and fleas. Within weeks, it jumps across millions of square kilometers. Within months, it sweeps across the continent. Within a single season, up to 99% of the rabbit population collapses. Billions of carcasses cover the land. Over the following months, landscapes change rapidly. Grass returns, native plants begin to recover. Farmers report fields they have not seen green in decades. For the first time in nearly a century, Australia was winning. but the outcome scientists fear soon appears. When an organism survives a biological threat, like a rabbit, it develops a resistance to it, in this case, the Myxoma virus, and it passes that resistance on to its offspring. Over the 1960s and 70s, rabbit populations become increasingly resistant to the Myxoma, with mortality falling below 60%. From the small fraction of rabbits that survive, often less than 1%, numbers begin to rise enormously fast. Myxoma slows rabbit population growth, but can no longer stop it. By the 1990s, rabbit numbers threaten to climb back into the billions, so Australia turns its attention to a second virus, this time from Europe and China, RHDV, the rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus. Unlike myxomatosis, this virus kills faster. It causes massive internal bleeding and liver failure, killing most rabbits within just 24 to 72 hours. In 1996, Australia releases the virus into the wild. Another wave of carcasses covers the Australian landscape. Hundreds of millions of rabbits die. In hot, dry regions, rabbit populations collapse by up to 90%. And once again, the pattern repeats. Some rabbits, especially in cooler regions, survive. These survivors develop resistance, and their populations quickly rebound. Over the following decades, researchers identify new variants of both myxomatosis and RHDV. Some evolve naturally. Others are deliberately introduced. By the 2010s, RHDV, like myxomatosis before it, begins losing effectiveness. Rabbits develop increasing resistance to both. Australia enters a biological arms race against rabbit evolution itself, with scientists constantly developing, importing, or testing new viral strains just to keep rabbit numbers in the hundreds of millions before they rebound into the billions. In 2015, a new variant, RHDV2, is detected in Australia, sharply reducing rabbit numbers. In 2017, a Korean strain known as K5, already circulating globally but not dominant in Australia, is deliberately released in cooler regions of Australia, where earlier viruses have proven less effective. Each time a virus is introduced, rabbit numbers drop sharply, each outbreak acting like a reset. But over time, the remaining rabbits adapt, evolve resistance, and return in large numbers. Today, the rabbit invasion in Australia remains one of the most destructive invasive pest crises in human history. Hundreds of millions still live in the wild, causing around $200 million in agricultural losses every year. Rabbit biocontrol currently saves Australia an estimated $4 billion annually in prevented damage. The war continues to this day, not with bullets or fences, but in laboratories, a continuing fight between human intervention and evolution itself. What started as the pastime of one Englishman shooting rabbits has become one of the world's most severe human-made ecological disasters.